Hi, and welcome to the Metamorphosis podcast. I am your host, Mike Elliott. Thank you so much for tuning in. If this episode resonates and feels really good, please give this a 5-star rating and share it on your social platform. Really helps this create a greater reach to men, women, transgender, anyone who's wanting to dive deeper in the realm of masculinity. See, I am so obsessed and passionate in the topic of becoming a better man, becoming a better human, but for my experience, a better man, a more empowered man. Reclaiming my primal nature, my alpha qualities, what I call the king, the magician, the lover, the warrior, these archetypes that live inside of me, to make this world a better place, not just for myself, but for my family and for my community. For me, I have this vision and mission that's burning inside of me to help other men reclaim their personal power, and for women to feel safe and seen by the masculine in ways that they haven't experienced yet, so that they can call those qualities forward and out of their masculine, where they can attract the men that they truly long to be with, where there is that polarity in the dynamic. This topic is so juicy for me. So thank you all for tuning in. Today's episode, we are going to explore the topic. I feel like it's a perfect place to start, and that is killing the nice guy. Let's get into this deeper. Those of you who follow me on social media, my Instagram handle is @MikeElliott808. So it's Mike Elliott, ELLIOTT 808. And so I've shared a few posts on there about killing the nice guy, and it's got a lot of hits and reviews and comments and shares, because I really feel like culturally, this is a really big topic. For me, it's a continual journey. I feel like there are still layers to work with in myself. And I've done a lot of work there. And what I found is the nice guy. Let's start off with who is the nice guy. There's so many descriptors, like word descriptors, that could label the nice guy. Some of the qualities or the symptoms of nice guy are, people pleasing, caretaking. Some of the symptoms can be low energy, soft voice when there's or no voice, like shutting down in times of conflict or disagreement. Or a strong symptom I see with a lot of my clients is, especially in couples work, is where, the feminine speaks up, the masculine retracts what they said and said, no, or what they believe. I'm like, well, no, just pretend I didn't say that. That didn't happen. Forget I named that need. It's the little boy. These are some of the symptoms, and who is it and where does it come from? It's this little boy inside that did not get his needs met enough of the time. There's so many families that are always, they're doing their best and they offered everything that they could. And just being real, we're coming from, this culture of industrial revolution, where there were actual energies and systems and tactics to strip people away from their power. And for men specifically, because it makes them better workers, more controllable. And so here's this little boy inside that grew up with parents from that time. And, many of us too, tuning in, were in that time. And that led to, a scenario where there's just a lot of survival energy. When we look at just like the function of the brain, just like back into the amygdala, and this energy, if we're being parented by it, can lead to a lot of neglect, an inability to receive reflections that are accurate or helpful or supportive or encouraging. Every human needs reassurance and validation and to be picked up in low moments. And for some families, the parents, the father generally, and sometimes father and mother, projected their hurt and their scarcity, their survival mechanisms, projected that onto the children so that everyone was in survival. And so what that ends up looking like is here are these little ones that are coming up into their power, and it's triggering, it's threatening, and it's put down, it's shut down. How many, I wish this was a live call so you could see a show of hands, because this is a really powerful thing when I speak to this place and actually get to see the nods or the tears or the hands of like, how many of you have had this experience, So many of us where we feel invisible, where our needs don't matter. And then this little boy finds a way how to adapt. Okay, well, maybe if I dance when they tell me to dance and jump when they tell me to jump, I'll ask how high. Maybe if I do all those things, then I'll receive love. And so this ends up being like, I'll do all the chores. I'll do what I say. I won't share my feelings because that's overwhelming for mom and dad. And, when I do feel my feelings, they want to just give me ice cream and tell me don't cry and put on something funny and change it because it's too much. And so, I won't feel my feelings. I'm just going to be strong. I'll figure everything out on my own. I'm not going to ask for hugs because that seems to be a problem or weird. And all of these scenarios that so many of us can resonate to creates the nice guy. That's the little boy who's going to do whatever he has to be loved and accepted by mom and dad. And then that ripples out into life. We go through all these stages of development and become a little boy in a man's body trying to be the nice guy. Like if I'm nice and I don't upset anyone and I don't hurt anyone's feelings, like maybe then they'll love me. But the interesting thing is adults, these are really unattractive, unsafe qualities because the people pleaser is actually disconnected from and has abandoned personal beliefs and needs. That's a dangerous person. People pleasing leads to a lot of unwellness because it means overextending and reaching to the other person to try and, hang on to that person so that they won't go away because maybe mom and dad emotionally went away when needs came online or power came online or desires to be different came online. So these people pleasing characteristics and tendencies, when they come up into a person and become a personality, that's the part where it's dangerous. So we want to really address that. And why would it be dangerous? I want to share a little bit more on that. If I'm in partnership, and I'll use my partner as an example, her name's Courtney. If, let's say I have a need that comes up saying like, I need to have an hour workout every day. Like how can we ensure that or arrange our family in our day where that can happen? And like, what's a need that you have? And like this dance back and forth. If I'm afraid, if I have this like fear of like, oh God, this might be, that might be inconvenient. Maybe they'll be disappointed. Maybe they'll be frustrated. Oh, like I don't want to feel any of that. So I'm just not going to have the need. I won't speak to it. I'll just do whatever they want. In that hour in the morning when I really need to work out, instead, I'll just check in and be like, well, what do you want me to do? That little boy quality that's so afraid of receiving like other person's experience, which, is because like mom and dad got upset. It's like still living in the body. That nice guy, people pleasing quality is so unsafe, because what will then end up happening is over time, if the individual need for the masculine, for me, let's say, if my needs keep getting shelved and I keep not speaking to them and I keep not bringing them into the relationship, I will build resentment. I will start to collapse because I'm not living on purpose. And alpha, a masculine, every human, but I'm speaking to mine, the masculine needs a mission to be anchored to. Some sort of purpose outside of self that serves humanity, to, cultivate these skills that are empowering, build in habits, be able to function around structures of time and scheduling, be able to like own and nurture personal gifting that's been given from God and that's been cultivated over time, and use that to support other people to move through places they're stuck or move through places they're learning about. A masculine, an alpha, someone on purpose is able to provide so much. Provide a sense of safety because he's leaning into time structures, leaning into containment, can feel his emotion and express it. The more that energy can move in those ways, that creates a sense of safety, because let's say the feminine, like in this situation, my partner, can then read like, oh, whatever I'm experiencing, it's accurate. Like, maybe I express that need around the gym, and then maybe it is frustrating because it's like, oh, if, they're really needing an hour to work out. Well, maybe that'll bring up some frustration. Ooh, that might bring up some shame in me. A mature man, and this is the whole work of killing the nice guys. Killing them is feeling the discomfort that comes up in relation to another's feelings that don't match ours. That's killing the nice guy. It's building the tone and the experience over and over and over that I can hold this. And I'm still going to bring my truth forward. I'm still going to speak to these places that are important to me. And I'm going to build the capacity to hold the feelings of the other person if they don't agree. I'm going to build the capacity to not need to defend or make the other person wrong or make my point right. It's just going to be with what's there. That's such a safe human. The other way that this offers over safety into the field is, a man that's clear with his direction. You can really trust what he says. Because in order to cultivate the capacity to move in some sort of direction, that means, he's gone through a lot of emotional healing. He has been held and supported in the places that was needed in these younger little boy places to be able to feel what it's like to be a man. And then hold space for others because he's been held. This is something that I've been surprised by in my 30s, because really it was my 30s where I really started to lean into being supported by coaches, therapists, soul guides, coaches, you name it. Investing tens of thousands of dollars to experience holding in those ways that I felt like I missed out on growing up. That helped me have a felt sense of what it would be like to be unconditionally loved, and reflected back my value, my gifts, my worth, the things that maybe I couldn't even see in myself. This support team that I had that was able to reflect back all these parts of myself were the experiences that helped me own it. For it's the reflections or the mirror that helped me actually get to see what's true about myself and dissolve the stories I've been telling myself internally over and over and over based off of the environment I grew up in, of like, not good enough, I don't belong, I'm not, I don't offer any value. It helped me rewrite my story so that I could just feed that within myself. And I want to speak to this place too, because so often the nice guy syndrome is a byproduct of believing the story, I should be able to do this on my own. A strong man, will navigate his feelings on his own, shouldn't need a therapist or some sort of support, shouldn't need a coach. Like, I should be able to just show up in all of this on my own. Like, that's a man. That's the old broken construct. That's the programming that was passed down. It's not helpful. That actually creates the nice guy, because the nice guy doesn't want to be a burden, doesn't want to inconvenience anyone for being there or for having needs or saying something that might, be confrontational or, bold. But when we look at all of the most powerful leaders out there, they are bold and clear in their message and their truth and what they speak. So clear, unapologetically themselves, authentic, real. Leaders of this stature can cry in public when something moves them. Someone that comes to mind is Tony Robbins. When he's talking about something that's like relational, about another human and someone's experience that touches his, like, he will cry on camera in front of 5,000 people. I judge that to be a man and someone who's done their work, someone who's felt their feelings. There are so many, examples I could give here, but just to land in my point, the benefit of receiving support anchors in the experience that's needed, just relationally, from a developmental sense. We need reflections, we need reassurance, validation, emotional holding and tenderness and care and compassion. Leaning into support makes sure that we are taking care of that need in ourselves. We are parenting ourselves by giving us the experience, even though we're now adults, to have that need met within our nervous system, our attachment systems, so that we can then offer that, so that we can feel more, not everyone's dharma is to then offer that. That's mine. It could be just landing in more confidence, more self-assurance, more resilience, more grit. When things happen or things are said, it's like more capacity to like let that bounce off like a water off a duck's back. It's like that. I know that's not true. So your comments or, judgments about me trickle right off because I've held that part that believed it, that heard it so much growing up. Like, I know that territory, so you can't hurt me with it. I've cried the tears I've needed to cry. I've felt the anger and the frustration that I've needed to feel. I felt the shame that I've needed to feel around believing that for such a long time. So when we as men go into being held in these places, it helps cultivate more strength, more belief in self, more courage to feel whenever life moves us to feeling. And so, just to recap a little bit, the nice guy symptoms are, in partnership. This one I didn't speak to, it's an important one, is the partner not trusting you, like not trusting the masculine. Partner not really having belief or faith that what's said will happen. Not feeling safe enough to express or expose or emote what's alive for them. A partnership where maybe the feminine takes on more of the masculine role takes charge, maybe is more of the decision maker, maybe the one who, deals with more of the adult responsibilities. More, maybe the feminine is telling you quite often, you should do this, you should do that. These are some signs. The symptoms of like insecurity, like paralyzing insecurity, a tendency to overachieve, this characteristic of perfectionism. Like, oh, if I make even a little bit of a mistake, I'm a fuck up. Like, going into that toxic shame. And just wanting everyone to be happy, and, a symptom of giving away everything that they have for free, holding space for everyone else. Whenever something comes in financially, or there's anything of overflow to give, they give it away freely. And it comes from this little boy. All of these traits that come from the little boy who didn't get their needs met. And then the resolution of it is getting those needs met, speaking what's true, having experiences where, this is a whole nother topic, but the languaging is adopted from a mature place of like how to speak to the places that are insecure, that are trying to repattern, where, everything isn't figured out yet. It's taking responsibility that nice guy might be there online, and like communicating that to the partner, like, hey, God, I noticed that I've been kind of people pleasing and caretaking, and I haven't been telling you how I actually feel. And, God, there's some things that maybe I've been doing that I haven't shared. I want to share them with you. For a lot of men, they like hide their use of porn. They hide their use of alcohol. This is these are some really destructive behaviors that can also impact safety. So to resolve that and to step into more of that king and warrior, it's exposing it. It's exposing it and taking responsibility, like, hey, I've just discovered I got some nice guy syndrome going on. I'm working on it. I'm doing my best. I'm so sorry. I want to hear how it's impacted you. Do you notice that? Do you notice some of the patterns? Can you speak to it? And it's actually then asking to hear probably edgy and uncomfortable reflections of what other people have noticed. Sometimes, when I think at the beginning of me healing this pattern within myself, it's like, oh, yep. A few people are now going to share with me, like, yeah, I've kind of noticed you lose yourself and you do what others want. And it's like, oh, I've just let you, live your own journey. Because sometimes, the nice guy attracts nice guys. So it's like, oh, I don't want to tell them what I see because they're afraid of losing the friendship. And then after starting to expose it, it's then going into those younger places. It's getting clear on the needs. It's like, what's the MO? What's the motive for this younger part? And how is it trying to get its needs met? And then it's bringing in this next wave, and the empowering warrior wave of speaking what's true and learning how to speak what's true in a way where it's not going to be just outright, harmful or hurtful. There's an art to it. It's not all of a sudden swinging to the other way and just being a rageful asshole and just letting whatever come out. That's not the way. The middle way is like, knowing that there's like this anger, there's this like, there's this no inside, like it's learning the art of like, how do I bring this now out of me into relationship in a way where it can be received in a safe way. Languaging is so much around this. There's so much around the language of how to speak to it, how to communicate, how to take responsibility, how to ask for needs, how to like a really interesting one or important one is like how to communicate in partnership, maybe things that have been noticed as a pattern in the other person in a way where it's not judgmental or critical, like in a way where it's like, hey, I notice there's something I need to speak to here. Hey, an example of this could be, first of all, I statements, like I'm feeling when this happens, when you do this, I feel, or when you do this, I project that this is happening for you. A story I'm telling myself is that this about you, this languaging is really important to help bring safety into the relationship. Because if we aren't being radically honest with each other or ourselves, we can't actually develop the relationship that's actually there. So I hope there's so much more I could share about this, but I want to leave it there because I said a lot and there's a lot of little pieces in there. And I imagine for anyone who's new to even the idea of the nice guy syndrome, there'd be a lot to take in here. So I encourage you to maybe tune back in, rewind, pause, reflect, journal, ask questions, open up a conversation with your partner to get more curious about this place, this terrain of nice guy, so that you can reclaim that alpha, that king, that warrior, that magician, that embodied lover who can fiercely feel and be alive and take up space and care and consider about others also, where your needs matter as well as others, and dissolve this whole pattern of making everyone else's needs important, thinking that that will satisfy your own. It doesn't. It really doesn't. And this I'll close with is, you will be so surprised in all the stories. I remember at the beginning of this, I would be so nervous or afraid of God, I'm going to say this really bold thing, or I'm going to ask for one of my needs to be met. And it's usually surprising, if I speak to it from a vulnerable place, the other person's actually relieved and more attracted and wants to be closer when I do that. And at the beginning, I couldn't figure out why, because it challenged the story I told myself that prevented me from doing it in the first place. Was, they're actually going to feel more safety in our connection if I'm real. And they've done studies on this. Authenticity is I think it's 4,000 or 8,000% more attractive than the frequency of love, on an energetic level. And why I feel that's true is it is the energy of truth. It's actually what's there. It's real. The nervous system, our survival mechanism, can trust what's being presented, which would create more attraction, more magnetism. Thank you all for tuning in. I'm so curious to hear how this landed for you. Do you feel like you have a nice guy online? Does this resonate? Does this land? Is this new information? Are you realizing, oh shit, I got some work to do. I have some uncomfortable conversations to have with my partner, with my friends, with my family. Would love to hear from you. So please share any comments that you have on this. And thank you again for tuning in. Please remember to share this on your social media, give it a 5-star rating, and I will see you on the next one, men, women, transgender, all of you who are tuning in to Metamorphosis.